There you go.
All right, and why am I sitting there?
All right, all set? Who do we have?
Oh, but we don't have any, we don't have Carolyn taking any minutes.
Yeah. Actually, if I can find my pen, I will make notes
Until she
and
gets
turn
it.
them over to
I don't think we need them until we get to,
Well, she might want, yeah,
until we
like
get
the time that we start then.
Yeah, all righty. Let me grab a. See, I'm stalling just a little bit.
That's 7:37.
All right. That's an airplane. Come on, what time is it?
7:37.
All right. So. All right. I will call this meeting of the village board to order
7:38.
at 7:38. We got off the airplane schedule. And proceed with the land acknowledgement statement. I have to put my glasses on for this. As we gather here today, we consciously and intentionally recognize, acknowledge, and honor that we are gathering on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Seneca Nation of Indians. With a proud and rich history, the Senecas are also known as the keepers of the Western Door and for their diplomacy and oratory. They are the largest and westernmost of the 6 nations that constitute the Haudenosaunee, the Confederacy of Nations, a democratic government that predates the United States Constitution. Alfred, New York, Allegheny County, and New York State at large are still home to Seneca people who continue to assert their tribal sovereignty. They act as caretakers and stewards of this land while actively maintaining their culture, ceremonies, and languages. By offering this land acknowledgement, we reaffirm our gratitude and commitment for the opportunity to work for and with First Nations people in this place as we pay our respects to the Seneca Nation on their historic lands. Will you lead the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I had a friend K through 12 who always said amen at the end of that.
Announcements, do you have any announcements?
I don't think so. Any announcements? Oh, I have one that will come through at the end of the agenda also. The village board meeting for November
8th.
8th, thank you, election day, please vote.
Yeah.
The village board meeting for that evening will be moved to the Miller Performing Arts Center on the Alfred University campus. We're making a switch of facilities for the production that will be in here to be able to have a good.
I was gonna question, because we normally are on the second Tuesday and elections are always the first Tuesday, except when it lands on the first. Do we still meet on election day? Okay.
And we do so for village elections also when that collision happens.
It wouldn't happen with collisions because that's always the third, whatever of the month. Right?
I was thinking there was I know what it was, when we had to postpone elections because of St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day, that was
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that ended up being like a day after. It was a Wednesday instead of a
Right.
Tuesday when that happened. But I didn't know what the I don't know, parameters are for civic
Yeah,
things. If
yeah. Well, I'd just as soon make it a state or a federal holiday, but anyway, no, I think we're scheduled to go. All right,
That's for everybody. That's gonna go. I just sent you a copy of that on the email, and there's a copy for everybody. There's your packet.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
thank you, ladies.
I would like to take a moment to acknowledge literally how hard Carolyn and Monica worked and how well they worked together to make all of this happen. And today was just one of those bad vibe days. I think it was, because I kept the bad days.
I haven't been here since I'm hard.
We did already, yeah. That's just announcements.
All right, so Carolyn, we opened the meeting at 7:38.
7:38.
And we proceeded with the land acknowledgement statement and the pledge of allegiance, and we're just getting into announcements.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
So thank you very much. Announcements. Trick or treat hours, 6 to 8 p.m. on Monday, October 31st. And we also encourage residents who would like trick or treaters to turn on their porch lights. It is getting kind of dark by 6 o'clock these days, so it'll show. Dr. Stephen Morrow, Alfred State College President's inauguration is October 20th, 2022 at 2 p.m. And
It's just your invitation as the mayor.
yeah, and I responded to them on email, so I'll look at this, but yes.
This is mine.
Oh, that's yours. I took yours.
Never mind.
I was like, go ahead, open it.
He
Tell
handed
me
it
what's
to
in
me.
there.
That's your invitation.
It's
as a
actually not
trustee.
mine, but it's mine by proxy.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, we want to keep, no messing with federal legislation here. But the inauguration of any president of any college is always a very wonderful occasion and a kind of celebration of the future of that institution. So encourage you all to attend in some form or another. Leaf pickup, October 17th through November 18th. Leaves should be placed between the curb and the sidewalk or along the shoulder of non-curbed areas, but not in bags. They come by with this giant vacuum cleaner and leave it.
They've
alone.
even been out already, so.
Yeah,
And that November 18th is somewhat flexible pending the weather, whether the weather turns
right.
bad, we will probably end early, or if it extends on into the end of, towards the end of the month, that will continue to collect as long as we can.
Can I ask a related question? What should village residents do with brush?
They can leave it along the side, as long as it's not big chunky stuff. If they have big chunky things, if they cut it up into smaller pieces, then we can handle it.
During
But-
the leaf pickup?
We'll generally,
Okay.
we'll usually pick up if they put it along the shoulder of the road.
Thank you.
Not in the leaves.
Right,
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
They can't vacuum that.
Yeah, no,
If it's the garbage, we can pick it up if it's a certain length, it's in that.
Oh,
wall.
right.
And bundle.
Okay, great.
And
The
bundle.
diameter and the length and height of it.
Okay.
All right, and there's the announcement of the relocation of our board meeting for November 8th.
Where in Miller?
Yeah,
Theater
I was
will
just
it be?
gonna-
Well, the theater itself.
Oh.
Are you
the
serious?
Senior theater, the new,
Not in the lobby of the theater,
It'll
we're
be on
gonna
the
go all the way down.
yeah, I'm gonna talk to, and in just a moment, we'll hear from a
Oh.
guest. But Randy, I think if we're set up to just be on the stage, that would be, because you can see what our attendance is often like. So we could turn it into a production of Equus and be fine. you know.
Wow.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Trick or treat hours?
Yes,
Does that mean that that's like the official, we trick or treat between those 2 hours and then we're done?
Done.
yes.
Done.
You can finish the loop in an
Promise
hour.
you will be thankful. When
No,
you're done, next
I
time you
just, that's
come
a new
back.
thing to me. so-
No, yeah, I grew up in a community where right off the bus until like 9 p.m. when the lights started going off.
Yeah.
You try to fill as much as you can in that sack. I hear you.
Yeah.
It's new to me here too.
But Randy, you live in the prime area.
Have you seen my yard yet?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
it's
did.
awesome.
Yeah,
Getting there.
It's
Yeah.
cool.
absolutely. All right, any other questions, comments on announcements?
Yes,
Yes, Pat.
leaf pickup, is it on certain days? I mean, some days are very windy, so I hate to put them down and then have the leaves fall all over the place.
It's, I think as they can make it, fit it in
Right.
on a non-rainy day, probably, you know.
Do you have any-
You can't, there's no way in the world that we could schedule specifically a time to be at your house to be able to do that. So it's sort of, we have to play.
So it's not as a set thing on Monday morning when everybody can get their leaves out. over the
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah.
But Carolyn, what were you just saying?
Brian has told me that they do drive around and they see a bunch of leaves on the street and they'll, if they have the time,
Yeah.
they try to accommodate everything.
So if you put them out over the weekend, they'd disappear Monday morning, probably.
That's great.
Okay.
And the Stephen Morrow inauguration, is everyone in the village invited, but you have invitations or?
I think it's been announced and there is a place that you can RSVP, but I'll check that out for you.
The invitation does not indicate everybody.
I think I received one in my regular mailbox that was just to like whoever lived at that address too.
Okay. So I'll double check, but,
Because I heard that there's a taste of Alfred afterwards, and
Oh.
I'm very interested
yeah,
in joining that, but I didn't know it.
You could always just call up the college and find out too.
yeah, I would also imagine that if it's an open invitation, it would be for the ceremony only.
Yeah.
And that is typical, that this is supposed to be a great community event. But if you want a taste of Alfred, I'll make dinner for you.
Yeah.
The taste of Becky's. And one last question, November board meeting, how does that affect the planning board?
In that your meeting is
The first Thursday of the month?
first Thursday.
They'll be affected because they're gonna be, they meet in the,
Oh,
theater.
yeah.
We can make the space available to them as well,
Okay,
so that would be November 10th.
Third.
They're-
The first Thursday.
Okay. We will visit about that. We can certainly make it available. It's not a problem.
and frankly, Randy, for the board meeting, probably if it's not being used, the tech classroom would work for the board meeting, and it might work for the planning board also. But you and I can talk, and
Absolutely, whatever makes the most sense.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Pat, because
Okay,
Yeah.
and Tai Chi.
Tai Chi, they will not be in the building during Tai Chi hours. But now I do need to ask Randy about Tech and Dress Week.
But I've also understood that the set and things like that are gonna be throughout the.
All over the space,
Right.
yes.
theater.
So,
If you're ready for me, I can go into all those.
Yeah.
yeah, and then we can ask questions. So this is Randy Wachtel. He's the production manager for the Performing Arts Division at Alfred University. And he is the man who has the great privilege to transfer production from the Miller Performing Arts Center to the theater upstairs.
Yeah.
How's that for an
That's
introduction?
fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me speak to you guys, ladies, gentlemen. I really just kind of want to make sure everyone knows what we're doing. We don't have any questions, like that's news to me. That's very helpful. So that it goes both ways. However, I can help facilitate or fix anything that we are disrupting. This is, I'm going to leave with everyone. It's a ground plan, just so you have an idea of the space. This is the hall itself, stage, the main entrance. And so, yes, as you can see, we're putting fixtures on the stage. We're using the two corners for playing areas. This entire middle becomes a playing area, as do the corners as well. I wrote in pen a couple of things just to note. We're renting a couple of porta toilets that we're going to put outside on the sidewalk there if we can fit it. I have to measure all that and confirm. And then the upright piano that's in the hall right now will get wheeled out either in the hallway or to the kitchen out of harm's way. The grand piano, the baby grand, will actually live and be a part of the doctor's house here in the corner. So that's yours to keep, just for reference. It's scaled out. I think it's, yeah, 1/4 inch to a foot. If you have any questions, certainly call, let me know, but that's for you guys to hang on to.
It's better than our pixel grading.
And for whatever it's worth, we are hiring a professional designer, a scenic designer out of New York City, Debo, she's fabulous.
She's stunning.
And yeah, so this is coming through her assistant who's doing all the plot work for us and the CAD drawings, but that's professional drawing, professional design quality. So also on that note, we will leave with you guys afterwards. I don't know if you have it, but a CAD drawing of the facility. Zach and I measured it out, so you'll have heights, depths, dimensions, and everything. One of the biggest things that I kind of want to ask and talk about is, as we are in the space occupying it, because we'll be there officially this weekend, which come to find out it's fall break weekend, so no one's going to be around to help us move into it. So we won't actually come in till Wednesday evening. But regardless, we're in there for about a month. As we're putting the set in and taking things out, as we see things that we feel are safety concerns or should just be addressed, we'd like the blessing of the board to do that, such as On the front here in the proscenium opening, there's 2 electrical duplexes. Those have been cut underneath. There's no power to them. We might see if we can reconnect the power or just take the duplexes off and put faceplates there. So no one, like the piano was plugged into it last time I came into the hall. So someone clearly thinks there's power there. There's not. Overhead, there's several things up above that are not safe. Is the best way to put it. So we just want to make sure we're following best protocol safety practice. So we'll probably take a few of those things down and or correct them so they're structurally sound. We feel good having actors underneath. I have a whole list of details we can go through. I sent Becky just kind of where we are, when we're in the building, what our intention is. If you have any questions of me, I'm happy to answer them. I don't necessarily want to read through all this, although I can if you want me to. I really just want to stress that our intent here is to showcase the hall, celebrate the rich history here, bring in students, bring in community, and leave everything better than we found. We think it's a really good opportunity. We're going to do a 2-page spread in our program about the hall with some photos that we got and some history. If there's anything else that you guys would like us to put in there, we need to do a shout out to the police or anything like that. If you'll just email that to me by the 19th, we can put that in.
What are the dates of the actual event?
The actual performance is November 10th, 11th, and 12th.
I had that one.
And then Sunday, the 13th, we'll strike. We'll come in and we'll take everything out. There may be a little bit of a day or two after that, depending on availability of the flatbed trailer from facilities and getting all that out. When we come in Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, or I'm sorry, a week from this Wednesday, next week, we will basically empty the space. Anything that's in there that we're not using, folding chairs, tables, et cetera, we're gonna take those over to the C.D. Smith Theater and store them for the month. We would like to confirm we have permission to take down, there's 2 temporary walls on stage, one right here to mask off the stage right area, and then one back here. We'd like to take those down. We can put them back up when we're done if you'd like, but it's kind of important for us to get those out of the space. There's a flat storage over here in the corner. We're leaving that alone, but we are going to take, there's several flats that stick out. So when you walk up on the stage, it's kind of a safety concern for us. So we're going to take anything that doesn't sit flush in that storage out, and then we'll return it all when we're done. We'd also like to paint the back wall is white. We would like to paint it something not white. And then when we're done, we can paint it back white or whatever you guys would like. So are we okay with all that? Is there anything we should talk about?
I'm okay with it personally. I have 2 requests.
Yes,
I'm Meredith Field. Nice to meet you, Randy.
likewise.
And I would be interested in meeting with you before anything happens to just walk around and look at all the things you're going to do.
Okay,
And then I'd be interested in interviewing you after the performance, after everything's taken down, to talk about your experience using the space and what worked well and what didn't, and any recommendations you have.
absolutely.
Meredith is our liaison for youth and recreation and also the village hall itself, so.
So we are starting Wednesday, the 19th.
Mhm.
Do you want to try to meet before then?
Yeah, I'll email you.
Perfect. I was gonna say, just give me a date and we'll make that happen.
I'll be around during full breaks if you want to come in one of
Me
those
too.
days. That would be, yeah.
Um,
Sounds like you won't have a lot of people around, so.
Correct. Monday would be better for me, but I'm here, so you
Okay.
just reach out, you send me an email, we'll set that up.
Okay, sounds great. Thank
We
you.
are aware that Tai Chi is in there every day, 9:30 to 10:30 in the morning. I think they'll be completely fine because this lives empty for the most part. So I don't think they'll be impeded in any kind of way, and because they're in there in the mornings, they could pretty much be in there the entire run. It shouldn't bother us.
Okay.
Um,
They are also very charming and respectful people, so.
Well, if there is something in the way or anything like that, please just make me aware. And for that matter, if at any point you guys see something in there that you weren't aware of, or you're uncomfortable, or you're unsure, just ask. Please let me know. I also want to make you aware, the opening of the proscenium, the top of the stage space has got some black bed sheets. I think have been kind of stapled up there, and another green maybe it was a curtain, I'm not sure, it's been up there a while, but we would like to take that down and possibly put up another curtain. If we put up another curtain, there's a good chance we'll leave it, so it'll look nicer and it'll be a little more updated.
Sounds good.
I think
Sounds
that would be
good.
ideal. to look at.
We're looking right now, as you can see, the seating plot there of having a roughly 60 patrons in the hall. We'll probably have an overflow of 5 to 8, because that's typically how it works. We already have a high school bringing 20 kids opening night, so we're gonna try to do a little bit more outreach in that regard as well.
Is that Haverly? By any chance?
Back,
Yeah, Haverly.
yeah.
Thank you.
There is no intermission. It's a cut version of the show. It's gonna run hopefully about 80 minutes, 75 minutes. So we're hoping with just the one bathroom and the 2 porch toilets outside and no intermission, we'll be okay. That's probably our biggest concern, is just the restroom facilities.
Absolutely.
The show is being done so that the actors never leave. So we don't really need dressing room or changing areas. They're kind of in the playing area the whole show, which is another kind of logistical challenge. I'm trying to make sure there's nothing else here that I don't need to touch base on. I think that's all the big things that I wanted to be aware of. We're also aware of the noise concern when we're up there and how loud it can be. So we'll only be in there after hours. The idea is to bring all of the set basically assembled. We might have to run a drill gun here and there to attach some things, but all this has already been built. That's been built. Zach's working on fence and arbors right now, so that everything should be at a minimum, I guess is what I want to stress. We're not gonna come in there and build things. We're gonna come in and attach things, brace things like that.
Sounds great.
I would
Excellent.
also like to point out that Zach and Randy both are very safety conscious, and if you take a look at this floor plan, there's no blocking of any egress of the whole thing, which is really very carefully planned.
And no one's going on the balcony.
Right.
Nope. We had a couple conversations with Chuck. So there is, not to give anything away in the play, but we are planning on hanging something from there that will have a reveal. It will fall. So we will probably have a couple of technicians up there on their knees, just kind of pulling a tie line so that it releases. We talked to Chuck about that. He's completely okay with it, as long as they're not standing, as long as they're not, anywhere near the edge high enough to be concerned. And once Zach rigs up this apparatus, it may be something where they're 10 feet away and pulling. I'm not really sure right now, but so we will have that up there in the balcony. But otherwise, that's the only thing. You'll see some circles here. Those are light booms, which is basically going to be a steel pipe on a weighted base that goes up 10, 15 feet, depending on how we need for elevation. And those will have lights on it to light everything up, and then we'll manage all the cable and have everything nice and neat. It's a challenge, I won't lie. Just the infrastructure of this facility is pretty lacking for a theater production. So we're making use of everything we can. We're being very creative, but electric is a big one. And so we did look at the panel box, and we talked to Chuck, and Zach is a master electrician. So we're in compliance with all the wattage and voltage that we need. We're not concerned about anything. It's just a matter of a lot of cabling, basically. So.
I have a question. I wasn't quite clear on what you were saying. What outlets didn't work? Is the piano plugged into an outlet that doesn't work?
It was last time I was in the hall.
So now it isn't plugged in at all, or is it removed?
I didn't touch it.
My concern is that the piano was moved and not plugged in, and it needs to be plugged in so that the moisture continues to.
The
I don't
problem
know.
is it doesn't always, the humidifier that's in there is not always filled. So even if it's plugged in, it's not performing the function that it's designed for. So we need to take a close look at that as well. Usually the lady who takes care of the building, that cleans the building, usually does a pretty good job about, but I've been up there a couple of times and it's just been, the humidifier is empty.
Thank you for pointing that out, though, that the
Yeah.
piano does need to be tended to regularly.
Don't want to lose it.
Especially now
Right.
in the winter months.
I will say, we also, when we met Chuck up there, we pointed out a few other things. There were several fire lights that were out.
Yeah.
We also could not find a fire extinguisher, and there should be 2, one on the stage and one in the front of the house, quote unquote. he was not sure where they were, so he was going to work to remedy that.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the time. And please, if questions at any point, don't hesitate to reach out. And if you'll email me, we'll set up
I
a time. to work.
absolutely will. Yep.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Randy. You're both out for university.
Is he the person with the kids? Oh, our kids are friends too, by the way. Harrison.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, Randy and Wendy purchased Bill and Joy Carlson's home, which I have assured Randy will be referred to as the Carlson home until they move out, at which point it will become the Doctor home.
Yeah.
Typical Alfred.
So good.
All right, thank you so much, Randy. Thanks for coming. Are there any others who wish to speak? You have time. Devin, are you debating or?
I'm trying to think of anything.
Was anybody on Zoom?
We have two people on Zoom
Okay.
and they have not unmuted to indicate they want to say anything.
Okay, so we shall then move on. We need board action to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of July 12, 2022, the special board meeting of August 25th, 2022, and the regular board meeting of September 13th, 2022.
So moved. Second on all three.
Got that, Pete and Jim?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Discussion.
Didn't actually get a chance to breeze through it.
You just in the third one? You want me to go get it?
He has it.
Oh, you have all three.
October 11th.
I have August 25th if somebody wants to see it.
Yeah, all three of them.
He got one.
All right. All set?
Yep.
And let me call for a vote. All in favor of accepting all three sets of minutes, please answer by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and opposed? Abstain? Very good, thank you. New business, did I skip anything? You
No,
can
yeah.
help me. Okay, not yet. Huh? Department of Public Works promotion, we need board action to promote Tyler Bossard to class number 2, as he is now a licensed Class B water operator effective October 17th. And he will probably blush, but Tyler scored a 98% on the
Yeah.
test.
Which is outstanding.
Yep,
Not
absolutely.
an easy test.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? I think this is terrific. We now have 2 people who have completed this, and that really works well for the village.
And we have 2 more working on wastewater treatment, so, I mean, we're really moving in the direction that we proposed originally
Mhm.
to combine the 2 departments.
I'm not sure what's most appropriate here, but I will announce that Teresa Jaycox has resigned all of her court clerk positions.
We have to vote on this
And we
one.
will vote on this, but I just wanted people to understand that was what was going on. We need board
No,
action.
we haven't voted on the last.
Oh,
one.
I'm sorry, please. Thank you. See, I lost it. All in favor of promoting Tyler Bossard, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Now, I'm so sorry. Board action to appoint Brittany Driesbach to the position of temporary court clerk at a rate of $14 per hour effective October 4th, 2022. And I assume the question marks are in there because we could adjust that dollar amount. Is that correct, Karen?
Minimum wage is like $13.20,
Yeah.
and she is at
So moved.
She's a what?
She's a trained court clerk. So she
Mhm.
works as that, but so she already knows everything.
Okay.
There's not that huge learning curve to learn the position.
I have no idea what a court clerk in Allegheny County makes, do you?
I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's very much for
Yeah.
somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah,
Our summer help rate 1450.
right.
Second.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think one of the points here with this is for the temporary position, that once they pass through it, then we come back around to setting the rate for full-time kind of thing, but as a starting with essentially almost what we were paying Teresa and then going up from there.
Mhm.
Once they're full-time will be the thought process, but we can do any rate we wanted.
Can I ask how many hours they work a week?
I think it's 36, maybe 7, 8 hours a week.
Yeah, I was gonna say 10 maybe.
Yeah, I thought they were
She does come in.
Yeah,
They're here Monday, Wednesday and Thursday, right?
yeah, but we don't pay for Monday night because that's town court. So we
Okay.
only pay for Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay, so Wednesday and Thursday
Yeah,
nights.
and then if she has extra to do, depending on the time of the year,
Okay,
what she has to do. I don't know.
yeah, so that makes sense. That's about right.
So what, how do we define temporary?
Because
I just put temporary because I was told that she's coming in
Sure,
temporary
yeah.
and that if it works out, I think.
right, if the judge decides that she wants to bring her on to be the clerk, then at that point we'll bring it
Is
up.
there,
to-
do we tell her like 3 months, the judge will have to decide 6 months, is there?
I don't know.
I don't know if we've ever done that before, but
I know, I mean, my hearing Wendy, I'm certain that she wants someone who's in there. But I don't know the timeline. They were working with someone from Steuben County to get acclimated to the process, is that right?
She was on the
She-
phone
she
with
is.
other people working. I don't know what they were doing. but,
She
you know.
started that last Tuesday.
Right.
That they had month end stuff they had to do, so.
Right.
I'm not-
Brittany did, she's already working.
She did, yeah, she started, that's why I put the date for last Tuesday, because that's when, like I said, it was, yeah, they had, what was it called, DA night on Wednesday night, and they had to have somebody right away.
But I mean, when I talked to Wendy, she was saying someone was gonna come in and train up someone else, but that's not happening.
That's not the way she put it to me.
Okay.
Yeah, and
yeah, I didn't, she didn't mention.
It
that to
happened
me.
that last week when I was still
Mhm,
sick, so.
Do I need to change the positions on the village webpage? The
Probably
names?
once we go through this, yeah.
Okay.
So I would like to propose an amendment to this because this person comes to us already well prepared.
Mhm.
That as a temporary court clerk, we up her to $16 an hour. And then after conversation with the judge and a little bit of research about what a court clerk does make per hour, that we then settle on.
And I don't know what they do either. I just know that we were paying Teresa 1406, which is
Yeah.
why we.
But I don't think, in my whole
Right.
experience on the board, I don't
Yeah.
think she ever came up for any kind of raise.
I don't know.
Yeah, so. So,
I would like to say I agree with that decision.
all right, so parliamentarily, we would first have to vote on the amendment and then on the whole motion as amended.
So I'll
So,
make a motion to, well, on the amendment, yeah,
right,
to amend to
All right.
16.
and do we have a second for that?
I'll second.
All right, discussion.
I don't know. I'm just a little, you know, I'm like, not that's a slap in the face to Teresa, because she's been here for years, but she did walk away, so I mean, you know, with no notice, so whatever we want to do.
Yeah. I believe that we can also have a talk with Teresa. I frankly would like to write a proclamation for her that speaks to her years of excellent service and how she managed to keep things going. But I need your approval of that proclamation.
Sure.
So,
Now, is it Brittany only interested as a temporary position, not as a full-time position? Do we
So
know that?
we never have a full-time clerk.
Okay.
So, but whether or not she's temporary as a
As a-
part-time.
No, I'm just wondering if she's a candidate or not.
For,
For the court.
full-time.
It appears from what I heard that if it seems to work out between the two of them, you know, in that she really does know what that she would be interested. That's what I was told.
Wouldn't it-
I didn't ask her.
Well, my concern is that if we start her out at 16 and then we hire her full-time, it seems like it would be easier if we started her out at 14 and then bring it up to 16 if it becomes a full-time position, since the existing position was at 14.
My proposal.
Because I'm afraid if we go 16, then where we go, 18, 20? If
We
we,
could keep it at 16. But
You
then
leave
she's
it at
permanent.
16?
We could keep it at 16.
okay,
We don't have to go up, right?
no, well, not usually,
Would it-
not in this case.
I
we
don't know
wouldn't.
her, like I said, I
Yeah.
haven't met
Yeah.
her, but would a very low rate to her indicate that that's all she's gonna get?
Right.
That's another.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
And
possibility.
if she's already clerking elsewhere, we should be able to see what she's getting paid essentially at C3 New
Yeah,
York.
I don't know where else, but, yeah.
Okay, I'm good with it.
And minimum wage is going up.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
Is it again? I hadn't heard.
in the state, correct?
Yes. and-
Yes,
Yes.
yes, sir.
If you're curious, Google says the average clerk rate in New York State rural area is 17.82 an hour.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
that's Randy.
He's gonna be joining the board.
I
meeting.
know. geez.
Yeah.
He didn't, he's either ignoring me or whatever. Anyway, any further discussion? I'll point out that Randy's statement was that that's the average in rural New York State.
Based on Google.
In New York State, yeah, the whole state.
I would like someone to,
I think we are, all we need to vote.
okay, so you're ready to vote?
On the amendment.
Yeah,
First,
on the
yeah.
amendment, correct. And the amendment is that we would offer her as temporary court clerk, rate of $16 an hour. And that's also with the recognition that she's part-time.
Okay.
And would be part-time in the future if she stays. All right. Ready to vote?
Yep.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Thank you. And now we will go back to the amended motion, which is to appoint Brittany Driesbach to the position of temporary court clerk at a rate of $16 an hour, effective October 4th, 2022.
So moved.
Discussion? Ready to vote?
Yep.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Abstention? See how well I'm doing?
I love it. Doing great.
All right, thank you. That was unanimous. That's excellent. All right. We need board action to designate the following offices to be offices to be filled. Trustee for a term of 2 years to succeed Peter McLean. Trustee for a term of 2 years to succeed James Ninos. And mayor for a term of 2 years to succeed Becky Prophet. This is very much a formality. We just have to make sure that we publicize that the offices are open.
I'm to do that.
Thank you.
And second.
All right. Notice the two people whose positions aren't open.
Yeah, you'd be kind of hard. It'd be funny for us to do that.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? All right, discussion. Again, I'll just point out, this is something we have to do, period. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. All right, okay, we need board action to designate Tuesday, March 21st, 2023 as village election day pursuant to election law 15-104 1B.
So moved.
And second.
and second. I'll just point out that that's Craig's and my 53rd wedding anniversary.
There you go.
All right,
Uh,
congratulations.
Yeah, well, Craig
Congratulations.
sent Craig a sympathy card. All right, discussion. All right, ready to vote. Again, this is something that we must do in advance. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Very good, thank you. All right, this is water project change order. Board action to approve the attached change order for contract 1 Pine Hill Water Main Replacement with Blue Heron Construction Company LLC on the water, do I read that as 2A project, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The water 2A project.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do you want to break
I'll
this
second
down
it.
for us?
Basically, it's the just the approval for right now to get to start.
There's a change order here, right? So what's the extra 210 grand?
The change order is the time, I think.
Oh,
Wasn't it for the time? I thought the change order was for the time.
Oh, it is the time change
Yeah,
because
for
we had to
extending it, we had
extend
to go
the,
longer, because I had to get that paperwork.
right.
done for them.
And that's what I came in.
Yes.
we had exceeded the deadline of our AFC grant.
But there's also a change in contract price.
Change in the cost. Well, it may have changed the cost, but the reason we had to do it, they called me and told me was because we went beyond the time they had said that we.
Can we bill that to Clark?
What was the
Patterson?
contract price? Mona?
Oh, she's
It
saying.
was 1.2, now it's saying it's 1.4.
They've had to move some items, and you're looking at first paragraphs up there, or to
I'm
adequately
not
operate
sure
the
what
water
those
system.
contract prices incorporating the change order.
So they had to relocate meter vault.
There was change in the, oh, I know what it is, the $200,000 is the change order from the drilling of the water line at the end, across from Peter's house, right down there. We changed the order from there to 75 South Main Street,
Right.
which reduced the cost of the project from approximately $300,000 down to, well, it was 500,000 down to $200,000, which is
Okay.
somewhere in there.
So, but this is a result of investigations and drawings and so forth that already projected us to go over budget, is that?
Well, we had budgeted, the game plan, the original game plan was drill the line because we couldn't get access the other way.
Right.
And we had plan B as going through 75 South Main Street, which we were able to get the easement on that. And as we also, it reduced the cost of the project.
But if it reduced the cost of the project, why is the change
Increase.
order increasing?
I'm not exactly sure. That part I was involved in. I didn't get it.
Because we'd have to approve where we're gonna pay for that extra money. How come Clark Patterson didn't tell us?
I'm gonna go check.
She got an
Oh,
email.
oh, okay.
I went 9 emails.
Perfect. Oh, thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
or something. I didn't get
That
it.
makes sense.
Are they saying because we delayed
They-
action
they
that
voted
they
us.
lost money?
No, I don't think
No.
so. I
No,
think
because of the cost.
cost of
It's
problems.
extended the time. Is what it looks like.
So
Right.
is this an inflation issue then?
It could be an inflationary figure. I don't believe it is. I think it's a project change. But the increased cost, you mean,
Yeah,
it's gotta be inflationary. It's gotta be.
That's crazy. This is supposed to be a reduced cost way of doing it, and then to have that much increase on top
Well,
of
I
it.
know the increase in just the water line itself was almost,
Okay, what the,
okay,
so the amount matches up with alternate bid 2.
which is. That's where we are right now. We approved alternate bid 2, which goes down to 75 South Main Street. This part I don't really have. This was actually-
Okay, so if we had gone down, this is, so alternate bid one was the directional drilling.
Right. Which we're not gonna do.
Which you're not gonna do, that would have been 466.
Mhm,
To go down across 75
right,
is the 210.
right,
And then it looks like the base bid is the 1,182,000,
right.
and
Okay, yeah,
the Hillcrest Drive is the 95. I bet those two together add up to the 1.277.
where's the 95?
It's on the last page. All three. What is Hillcrest what we're doing right now with ARPA funds?
That's what I had thought.
Or could you make this font smaller?
Yeah, that's what those two add up to the. Wait, it's also-
Pine Hill is ARPA funds. That's what I submitted for that paper I gave you the other day.
Hillcrest,
Yeah,
that's what I thought as well. So are they double dipping?
Well, no, they might not be if, it depends where we're paying for this stuff from, right?
mhm,
Right, it's okay. The original contract, so what's the funding source we got? We got a grant, right?
right, EFC,
EFC, and how much did they give us? Is that 0%?
no,
No. What was the EFC grant, do you recall?
somewhere around 2%.
Okay, and how much was the amount that they were going to? Was it the 1.2 million or was it something else?
1.2, I think is wastewater, it's the next 1.8, is it?
For the drinking water, is that?
No, I think it's actually more than that. I can't remember, it's been so long, we've been doing this for 5 years.
Yeah.
And we're just digging now.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm.
So this is the
wondering if we can
kind
make Clark Patterson pay for it.
COVID got in the way and. but Still. We paid a lot of money to municipal solutions.
I'm wondering if I was copied.
Well, and this does say it's only for that the change order is for Pine Hill water main replacement. And not anything else.
Okay, here's the Hillcrest.
It's basically everything in alternate bid too, that
I
added.
asked him, I knew this would come up, so that's what he told me. I also, this was recently, I just realized it was yesterday. It is the.
Yeah, go for it.
the Sewer planning grant thing.
Mhm.
They did a version of the planning grant agreement, they want it to be executed before,
October 14th.
which is Friday.
Right.
I didn't get on the agenda, I just got too many things up, so I
Sorry.
think we need to add that to the agenda, but that's,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I just.
No, hey,
Fine, hey.
we'll work our way through it.
Carolyn, did you a copy of this, Jim?
You took it with you, it's up to you.
Okay, it's the 1.82 million.
That's a 1.18.
That's right.
This is the explanation.
Well, I mean, the way it reads is that we executed the original contract without choosing an option for how we were gonna come down from Pine Hill. So then
We had two options. Either the option was one to drill, option two was to lay the pipe down at 75. So we are in option two.
I guess I then wondered why they put it in as a change order.
I just wanted to know where.
Because it looks like they never included option one. They were waiting to see.
Well, we were choosing between 1 and 2.
Right, right,
essentially.
right, but according to this email, it sounds like they never included the cost of either option because they were waiting to see if we would.
Well, I
get
have that number,
option
but-
or-
It was between 5 and 2.
Right,
If we had to drill, it would have been $500,000 and then it dropped it down to a quarter.
Okay,
Yeah, essentially, yeah, right, from like 480 to 210, or whatever,
Right.
460 to 210, I forget, it was $250,000 difference.
well, with that explanation, that actually does,
I just
make
want to
sense.
know where our funding source is all.
Sure,
It's definitely the grant money.
So was that the USD rural,
Rural water.
did we get that or no?
we got two different ones.
I understand that, but that's the one that's the, this is blue here, that's the Pine Hill water main replacement, that's the one that I'm doing.
No, Hillcrest
No,
is
no,
ours.
Hillcrest. Oh, Hillcrest, yes, yes, yes.
It has to be, because the request came from Municipal Solutions on that transfer, wasn't it, Monica?
The person who sent that to me, I have to go back to my email and look it up.
what's on that email for now?
Yeah, it should be on.
This is Pine Hill,
CPLT,
Clark Patterson,
Lynn Patterson.
Clark Patterson, they are our engineer.
They provided a phone number if we need to.
Yeah, well, they're
Get
not
more
gonna answer
information.
now.
No,
I
they
might be
can't
able to get
answer
Nick on the
tonight.
phone. Hold on.
Yeah, so I'm sure, I mean, I'm assuming that it's coming from the same grant that the original 1.27 was, right? Do we have 1.5?
So Peter, you need to know where the funding's coming from.
Right. I remember the 1.27 was going to be through what we got with Municipal Solutions, but was it more than that to encompass this whole thing? Or are we financing the additional now?
But
So-
Carolyn knows the answer to the funding.
Oh.
That's what he was asking us, how
No,
was
we
it
said
funded?
EFC and stuff. It's the way water grant is what the.
Right, do we know how much we received for the WIA?
This is what it is. I don't remember with five grants. I can't.
No, I hear you, that's fine.
That's what he asked us, what was funding it. It's a weird
Right.
grant, isn't it?
Yeah, but he wants more specific than that. He wants to know how much the grant was.
Right.
where we at. I can keep those.
No, that's fine.
Nick, I need to
It's
know where the
probably in
funding's
minutes
coming
somewhere,
from
isn't it?
on,
Pardon?
The amount is probably in our minutes
Yeah,
somewhere.
that's what I was.
500,000, 4 million. That funding's coming from the EFC, correct?
Here we go.
Go to the webpage, is there a idea
just got
of
the first one.
time where we could look at minutes? For example.
Okay, when did we get the grant award?
Okay, that was in, I believe, November of
Are you just looking for
2018.
what the original grant amount was?
18.
And then I can go to the draw request, the.
Oh, yeah.
When you get something like that, you want to.
And then
That's what I was saying. She's,
Sure, there's another email that we got from the guy that called us to make the transfer.
but she has the actual drawdown amount of what the original amount was. That's what I was saying. She can look back.
Yeah,
and look
that'd
at
be
that.
great.
Let me check my email.
Yeah, if we're gonna vote on something, we gotta know where it's coming from.
That's
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
Precisely, the chamber. Say
It's adding bid to, which is why it's going up by that much, but I just want to make sure that we're.
That's a tough piece. This, there's all sorts of papers that come with them each time. And there's- Sam, what kind of thing that
Yeah, it's
you're looking for? Okay, but what we're gonna, that's just, okay, the other. What was the code? Is that, no, no. There's also the second file, right? Okay, there's stuff. Little project cost, is that what you're looking at on there? Original budget, the modified budget. Previous expenditures.
So here it is, the EFC market financing loan, that's the one that's at the 2%. But we had grant 2.15 million. And then the CDBG grant of 1.25 million.
CDBG was one that's for the water tower.
Right, so it looks like we're gonna fit all of that within the 2.15 that we received.
That was the WIA total?
That was the we.
Okay, there's two different items.
Oh.
And there's a smart growth.
One sewer,
And there's a
one water,
CDBG,
right?
and there's a sewer planning grant.
Okay. So the 2.15 is which one? The sewer or the water? The water.
The water. And the others.
Yeah, because the sewer was
I
the
don't have
EF,
anything that
was the EFC was the sewer.
as well. They were both EFC grants.
Okay, well, EFCs, right.
One was interest free and the other one. was-
Somebody said, oh,
Right.
the paperwork that we were submitting for. That's all.
Definitely. No,
Same thing there. And there's just copies of invoices that we
Yeah,
sent
that
to
makes
them
sense.
for reimbursement.
And that, okay, there it is, that's the. You're so cool. Okay, this is-
I'm gonna use the rest of the.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Well, I mean, I think you certainly have it there, but I'm just concerned that we're getting at the end of it. It's aligning all of these. Oh, here we go.
What's that for option two?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying like
That's up.
what the expenses are. Because I feel like, let's see. Water replacement, right, so that's this one right here. So I still think it's above our modified budget. Because the water main that's the one that's coming up, they're doing right now, correct?
That's the one that,
It's coming,
no,
all,
that's gas, what you're saying.
no, the water main, the one that they've been working on, coming along 244.
No, that's gas.
Although that's gas that you're doing
Yeah,
there, so they haven't begun the water
No.
part.
no, we're not even gonna go there till next year.
Oh, okay, I thought we'd begun that already, so that was gas,
It's the water line. The water line is sitting at the playground right now.
right? I saw that. Take a picture of this when I have it.
I'm not sure what discrepancy.
Well, it's just here, see, it says modified budget. It's even that is still 50,000 different than what they're showing there. But then you're adding on the change order for bid 2, which is another 210. Right, which is fine, if that's what we want to do, we just have to know that go with our eyes wide open. That at the end, we may be $200,000 less from our RIA grant. I mean, now we have money in our water reserve. What are we gonna do? Not do these projects? We probably, we're gonna do them.
So we had already spent a portion of the 2.1.
No, I just think, so the way, you can take a look here, this is what we were given. There's the number of different projects that we bid out for include replacing the water lines from the well up, replacing the well house and everything down there, right? The pump in the well
We're
house,
replacing the tank,
right, the tank,
a hot box at the playground. We're putting, well, actually, it's in the parking lot now. And we're putting another hot box at the museum. We're putting 2 meters in altogether.
Is what those are for.
I don't know, if you could think of this. I could get a hold of,
right? I mean, what's I mean,
but then we would have to meet again because we've got a deadline that we need to get, they need to get started.
right.
I'd rather leave here with you comfortable and not making a vote than to,
What is your concern specifically at this point? Because my concern was whether this was a surprise, but it looks like it's not actually a surprise based on what they sent to us with the change order. But so the remaining concern is if we have grant money to cover it, right?
Right, that's what I'm wondering.
And you're
Right,
not
that's
sure.
what Pete
That's what you're
wants to
still
know.
not sure.
Exactly, and that's why I'm thinking like. We ultimately need to, and again,
We need clarification.
right,
Yeah.
it's still, I mean, it would still be kind of a bargain, if you will. Just as not as much of a bargain as it would be if it was covered.
But we can't vote and approve the funding change if we don't know where the funds come from.
We can, but because we know we have it to cover it here, it's just that by the time we go to do the tank, that may be where we need to identify funds. Outside of our grant funding.
But isn't the tank is from the CDBG grant, and this is the WIA grant.
right, it's
That's-
different.
that's
The
fair.
CDBG grant,
Right.
the block grant,
It could be, okay, so that was a bad
What
choice.
is
It could be
strictly
from the well house, or it could
Right.
be from,
I gotta, that might have been the change order because we put another hot box in where.
That doesn't say that as the change
No, it
order.
doesn't. I think it- trying to think of what's changed that from the original agreement.
Well, let's go back to Meredith's observation of several minutes ago, that perhaps they didn't include the option one because we were working on creating.
So 1 and 2 were the two options you were choosing between.
Right,
Right,
And so then they bid out, we had them bid out from both Blue Heron and FP Kane, what it would cost to drill and do the pipe one way, which would be up at the top of where Sales and Pine Hill come together and go down through
Right.
there.
right.
Or to do option B, which would be to come down through 75 South Main, that yard there. So we got the prices of what those two options would be.
Right.
Which is a 200, well,
Well, yeah, it's a $250,000 difference.
but we had never actually approved either option. It was the project without the Sales Street.
that,
to
it was
South Main
an
Street
either
connection.
or option. It was either we're gonna go with option one and drill at the cost of, or we were going to be able to get.
Right.
But on the change order, it shows 1.2 million in costs without Sales Street to South Main Street included, period.
Yeah, no. I think we just make a motion for that.
So this was either gonna be a change order for the 250,000.
Or we don't do that work.
Or it was gonna be a change order for 466.
Correct, yes,
Right.
yes. If we're gonna do the work that's outlined in either of
Right,
option 1 or 2.
right, Sales Street to Main Street.
Right, right. So I mean, I get, the point is, well, if you can look at it this other way, if everything else is paid for, is it worthwhile, even if we pay for it out of our reserves? You know, maybe we don't. There's contingencies and things like that that are built into the budget that we can eat into, and who knows what everything else comes out to. But is it a worthwhile investment to have that work done at this time? If we do go above and beyond. I would say, I mean, that's kind of the reason why we have reserves, you know what I mean? Is to
This
be
was
able to-
never brought up to me that the village would have to accept something like this. It would have had to run through Becky before this.
Mhm.
So it makes me feel that this is all being covered by the grant. Otherwise, I think if there was an additional cost to the village, I think it would have to for us before even this. So I think we're covered, but I can't guarantee that.
Mhm.
It's my gut feeling. I mean, that's the way they've done it before, when we went into overcosts on the sewer plant,
Mhm.
it has always come back.
Well, maybe now is the scary time to note that Blue Heron was the contractor on that. And as I understand it from Tom McDowell at the time for what's now DPW, Blue Heron mismeasured the cover and we paid for it.
Right,
We paid
yeah,
for
I
it.
know.
Their mistake.
Yeah, Tom told me about that. Who was our engineering firm back then?
Clark Patterson.
It was.
So if we don't vote on it tonight, then we need to have a special
We would have to have-
meeting vote like Thursday.
Right.
Well, we'd have to set it, whatever the requirements are, to set a meeting.
So there's no way to put it off and still meet their deadline of the 14th. Is that what they were asking
We're
for?
running on a tight schedule right now, timeline wise, as far as getting work done. And I don't know what ultimately the effect would have if we did take this. Because from what I understand from Brian, they plan to work tomorrow. They start digging on,
Yeah. your brain's-
they're gonna start digging on Hillcrest tomorrow, but that's a different funding.
Hillcrest
It's a
is
different
a
project.
different funding, yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Meredith, so-
So they could start there.
Yeah.
It's the hot box at the end of the driveway. And
So is our possible way out of this, because Hillcrest is the project that started on tomorrow,
right,
that we declare the need for a public meeting at the beginning of next week. Does that give us enough notification time? And that in the meantime, we resolve this with
Yeah.
both Blue Heron and.
I think it would be the safest way. I think that.
I think it'd be the most
Pete would
prudent.
sleep, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So if it's not rushing,
How long we need to set another meeting.
yeah, Carol, how much time do we need from tonight to be able to set another public meeting?
72.
To be able
72
to,
hours.
72 hours?
Yeah, yeah, I don't remember the deadline for the change order.
The 14th.
Is it the 14th? Because there's another thing that I.
Yeah, there, it is the 14th.
We have to do by the 14th for another permit.
Can we have a special public meeting and deal with two of these?
Yeah,
Okay,
but, yeah.
so 72 hours would put us on Friday?
No, you gotta be Saturday by the time.
Unless it's an emergency, if you can declare that that's an emergency, you can have one sooner. And the NICOM book says that emergency is vague, it's not defined.
Yeah, and that's also dealing with circumstances for executive sessions that is sort of like life and death kind of emergency. you know.
This is emergency. And I've been to the seminars and they say it's not, it's not.
Good call, Pete. I gotta say, I'm amazed.
So.
You amaze me always.
I'm just gonna lay out as I interpret it, our different options. Not make the deadline and have a public meeting, say next Monday, which would be the 17th of October. Do I have the right day of the week?
Look at the calendar.
And figure this out, and whatever the next thing that Carolyn has for us is, deal with both of those in another public meeting. By the way, the only thing we can't ever do without a public meeting is approve expenditures.
Right.
So we,
The other thing that I'm talking about, that it's the sewer plane grant study,
Mhm.
the $30,000 thing. I just, part of it, when I was looking for the email on this, I realized that was there. And I just discovered it because I haven't been here, and it's a 40-page thing, it's for $30,000.
Oh, yeah.
That has to be executed by me by this Friday. Jim's got to
Right.
print that email off on that.
Oh, okay.
That's, I just realized that in the midst of all this. So I was writing up a resolution if you wanted to do that. You know, in the perfect world, I would have had this to y'all last week and, emailed all that.
Sure.
no, in a healthy world, and therefore I don't want you to keep thinking that you screwed up.
Okay, yeah, this one has a 14th too.
Yeah, it's the
So-
14th.
so
This is
this is-
Friday.
14th, does that mean by midnight? 14th when? Can we do it?
It says.
End of the working day.
Yeah, please properly execute the grant agreement and exhibit E grant disbursement request and return it to me as scanned PDF via email no later than October 14th, 2022. EFC will then countersign and send you back a fully executed PDF of the agreement of the.
So what if they have to wait till Monday?
I have no idea.
Do they pull out? Do
Because
they-
there's no change in dates on this change order.
Right, it's only the
Yeah.
amount, yeah.
He told me it changes dates.
Yeah, it doesn't. Original contract dates are the same as the change order contract dates.
And it's-
Well, it was Municipal Solutions that sent me this, because I had to have her sign it.
Right.
Well,
And I had to
Solutions does WIA, they do CD.
I understand that, but they made me jump through hoops to get her to sign
Right.
the change. That's what I'm saying.
Sign change.
Yeah, wasn't that the change that you had to come in and sign?
Right.
That's why I'm confused. I'm just gonna call it.
So what if we were to gather Friday afternoon?
That wouldn't give us 72 hours.
But we could call it is essentially an emergency.
But I have to leave at noon on Friday. so-
Yeah, I won't be available either, but
Okay.
if you want to do an emergency, do it Thursday.
Yeah,
All right, so that would be our second option to declare that, which I would willingly do, that this is an emergency of.
well, let's just talk about it this way, all right?
Okay.
We get one of two options, right? They're gonna tell us either there is the funding for it, or they're gonna tell us there isn't the funding for it, right?
Right.
So we have to decide, if there is the funding for it, we're gonna say yes, okay? If there isn't the funding for it, what are we gonna do? We can decide that right now.
are we gonna still say yes on both options?
That's a good,
So I guess one part that I'm a little confused
Sure.
about, based on what you were saying, Jim, is that if we didn't approve this, then there's still another way to do the project, but we don't run the pipeline the way that you worked so hard to make
No.
happen.
No,
That's not true. So no matter what, we have to approve it.
Correct, because if we want to do that portion of it, so there's gonna be a brand new tower. Do we want all the water running from that brand new tower through all the old pipes? Probably not, right? It's kind of crazy. So we want to want it through the new pipes down through there, but essentially, as it came out of the new tower, there were one or two options to bring it down to Main Street. And so these bids 1 and 2 are the
Right.
costs,
There's two different options.
right, of doing
So
that.
either way, we
So
were gonna pay
either
one of
way-
these costs.
Right, either way, I'm thinking we're gonna say, well, geez, we have the water tower, we have all the water coming up from the, there. Are we really gonna leave it as is to redistribute that water once we bring it up there? Or if we had to pay for it, would we still pay for it, say, out of our reserves?
We'll figure it out, yeah.
And so my thought is, we're still gonna say yes, so why go through the issue of going through, I mean, I'm irritated by it, and not that I don't know it right now, okay? But I still think I'm gonna get to that same point, so I don't see any reason why, for me at least, to put off doing another meeting and everything like that, if I'm gonna get to the same point, and then just after the fact, we can find out what's it gonna be.
That makes sense.
right,
That's at least my thought. Everyone else has
that makes
it.
a lot of sense.
It's just,
Because
Rebecca's thoughts, that's all.
yeah, it took all of us by surprise, and thank you for actually having us start this investigation so that we
Mhm.
understand what's going
Right.
on. But your point of, yeah, we're probably gonna approve it anyway. So,
I mean, if people need time to think about it, that's another thing entirely. I think, in the half hour, whatever, we're looking at it, I logically came around to that
Mhm.
thought
Right.
process on my own. But that doesn't mean everyone else is there, so I don't want, press on where others are uncomfortable.
the extent of information that was given to me was that we needed to have this approved. And basically, the missing information is not something that I at all anticipated.
so if we start with Pete's option,
Yeah.
that we will say yes, and I'm sorry, I hope I'm not violating any kind of parliamentary procedure. Put me in jail. If we start with Pete's option and approve this, but also with the understanding, and maybe it even shows up in the minutes, that we do have to figure out where the funding is coming.
Right, exactly. Because, I mean, it won't be an issue today or tomorrow, but when it will is, as the bills come in, if we get to the back end of spending down the grant, and there's still a payment to be made at the end, that we will allocate funds from essentially what we saved up in our reserves. And that's okay. I think that's a valuable project.
Meredith did bring up a point, and there is a portion that we could delete from the project as a result of this, but I don't know if it's in the best interest of the
What
village.
portion is that?
Well, it could be, I don't know what it could be, but I'm sure they're gonna give me options.
I'm
So,
certainly not
hey, I'm gonna take,
suggesting
you're
that we
gonna take
delete any
$200,000. The new water meters go away.
But there's also the possibility that if we're using ARPA funds to pay for the Hillcrest, if that's the expenditure that is bid 2,
Yeah,
that was the part of the original expenditure. So that's half of the money right there
right,
is, from what we're gonna be paying is essentially. So, if that is the case, then,
We're halfway.
we're halfway there already.
right.
So it lessens the blow, but we should just, finalize where are each of these funding sources and what are we applying them toward.
I can do that. Well, maybe we'll call it.
All right. I hope that makes sense.
I'm almost,
I will ask, are we prepared to vote on this motion, which is on?
Did we make a motion yet?
Yes.
no, we don't have a motion.
Oh, we don't?
No, we never know.
How did we enter discussion without a
Well, we just
motion?
got ahead of ourselves. We got excited.
That's my fault.
No, it's
No,
not.
Peter, it's, thank God you.
All right,
I make a motion to vote.
you make the motion to approve the attached change order for contract 1 Pine Hill Water Main replacement with Blue Heron Construction Company LLC on the WIA project.
Yes.
Right.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you.
And then everything I just said is in the discussion.
And I want to add one point of discussion, which just a comment and kind of a question, but a little bit hypothetical. I mean, it seems like we were all caught off guard,
Right.
and I'm also just wondering, like, is this something that we need to talk to CPL about or talk to whoever sent this email? I mean, is there any sort of recourse to say, look, this was a communication problem, we need to be clear
No, I
about.
can do that. I'm the liaison between them, and I can definitely make sure that this point doesn't, that they need to provide us with all the information, not just.
Do you think it'll help, or do you think they're so big that they
Well,
won't?
I think that they seem to listen to me.
Okay, good.
So now, and I mean, and the email from them yesterday was saying, like, we were originally gonna take this up when we took up the other part of it, which would, maybe the discussion would have been better then. But we held off because we needed to make sure that we would have the proper easement either way
Right.
coming down to Main Street.
And so that is a lesson in the number of moving parts for any of these projects.
Right.
But I do think your point is well taken, and let's ask Jim to
Yeah,
have a chat, because
I'm glad you're willing, thank you.
Yeah.
well, I've asked Jim to have a chat with, how can we have money available for years, and we still haven't started.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jim, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you. So, would someone please call the question?
You will.
I will. Are you ready to vote?
Yes.
All right. All in favor of approving this change order for contract 1, Pine Hill Water Main Replacement, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Very cool. Thank you. I want to compliment the board, but particularly Peter, for picking up on the needs for these kinds of things. And yes, it took us by surprise, but I think you've helped us walk through it in a way that's sane and productive. So thank you, and thank you all. All right. Boy, we used to have some meetings that went till 11 o'clock. Brad Bowden would blame me for all of them and ask me if he needed to bring a sleeping bag for the next one. I wasn't even running the meetings then. Okay, board action to approve code enforcement officer's second and third payment for the renovation of the brick at Alfred University in the amount of $143.54.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just for our newer members, like when he does these extra projects, he gets like a little bit of money for having these things. So he gets $140.
He's probably gotten 2 or 3 other payments for
Yeah.
that during the process.
It's
All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. And there are, I hear no opposed. No abstentions. Thank you. All right. Board action. This is G, board action to approve the attached Alfred Village Parks Committee charter.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
If that's not a conflict of interest.
No.
No.
Well, so what's this
Just
all
trying to
about?
figure out exactly what this is.
So there's a document
Yeah.
that you have,
Right.
which is basically just saying, we want to create this committee, we want to formalize the committee that is a working group that kind of oversees maintenance schedule and planning of our playgrounds and parks to make
Right.
sure that we have funding, we have playgrounds and parks that meet the needs of the community, that we're surveying the community about what those needs are.
So what are you thinking is the size of this committee?
I believe it's 7.
Okay,
Yeah.
So all of the people on it will have specific roles.
Yeah.
In terms
Good.
of grants or community fundraising or project management or publicity. And there are two people already involved, Matt Lake and Justin Grigg. And once this is approved, hopefully tonight, then we'll recruit more people to have our full committee and really get going first with the Pine Hill Playground and then eventually with the Children's Park.
And this committee also would then connect with the planning board to be sure that everything's
Mhm.
Yep.
copacetic.
And we're also planning to work with the Alfred Community Sports Association and get their guidance because of all their parks work that they've done in Holland, so. But we want it to be a formal entity of the village.
Mhm. No, I think this is excellent.
And
Great
how are we
idea.
envisioning membership to be invited or?
So in the beginning, we're recruiting, where actually
Okay.
Justin and I are talking to people in the community and saying, do you know somebody with this skill set? We're really
Got it.
looking for specific skill sets.
Got it.
And over time, we are hoping that the community at large will know about the committee and that people who are interested will come to us.
Mhm.
Right,
Right.
but because it's new, we're really targeting people with certain skills so that we can get the Pine Hill Playground stuff off the ground as fast as possible.
That's true.
A bizarre question. Planning board, village board, et cetera, only village residents can be members.
That was our assumption for this committee.
Okay.
And I'm glad you're bringing it up because we were assuming that it can only be village residents. If that's not the case, then
Well, I think you should shoot for that, but I think if you find candidates that are qualified, that have the potential need for a position on the board, that have that background, I think you should be able to make that available to them as well.
okay, great.
I mean, I think the primary should be village
Right.
residents.
We want
but I
people
think-
who are really invested in that.
I hate to see somebody's expertise being unavailable only because they don't live in the village.
I think we could make a case that the membership should include at least one person from the town,
Okay.
and that expands the pool.
Okay.
And I'll make a recommendation to talk to Nicole Bowdre.
And I wouldn't be opposed if it was employees that coming into the village of any entity, people who are, it could be employees of Montessori school or, any of them that have the skill sets you're looking for.
Right.
I mean, I think we would want a majority of the group to be locally
Mhm.
residing, but
Right.
I don't think it's necessary that all of them are.
I agree.
Okay, great.
All right. So do I hear, I've heard a motion, yes, and a second. Any further discussion?
Mhm.
I think this is a great idea.
Me too.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Okay.
opposed?
At this point, since we're at this particular point, I would like to see if we could put in a motion to take the existing playground on Pine Hill and put it into surplus, of which will take it off our village inventory and allow us to remove it and possibly sell it. But it has to be taken off it's
You're
got to
gonna
be
go
declared
the equipment,
surplus.
yeah.
The equipment.
The equipment.
Yes, the equipment.
So I move, or you move, I'll second that we
Take the
Yeah.
playground equipment and put it into surplus.
surplus.
So you're declaring it as
This-
surplus?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
Now,
so
this
then
is,
I get the
this
motion
recommendation
properly.
came from Richard Buck
right.
as to how to handle this, of which he will give a disclaimer to the village so that upon the sale of the
Disposition.
equipment, that there is no, we will be held harmless.
All right, any
Okay.
further discussion? We have a motion on the floor with a second. Any further
Well,
discussion?
who seconded it?
Peter.
Okay.
All right, ready to vote?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I can declare that unanimous, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I think we have one more piece of new business that was brought to us. And that has to do with this, the $30,000 EFC grant. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so I move that we,
I wrote something up here.
oh, you got,
while
oh,
you
you're wonderful.
were saying that.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna authorize the mayor All right, so I move that we authorize Mayor Prophet to sign the CWSRF Engineering Planning Grant Agreement and grant disbursement request with New York State EFC for $30,000.
Now, that's a videotaping
Of the-
of the sewer lines.
There's a 40-page document that I just got. Thank you.
Type in there.
Did somebody make a motion?
I motioned, so we need a second.
I'm
Jim
second.
seconded.
Jim seconded it.
Yeah.
Let's carry that.
Oh, here it is. I see it.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Let me just add something to this. It's not to affect the vote in any way, but we tried to accomplish this for a very long time doing small amounts of it. We now have almost the entire village covered. As to the primary lines coming in and out of coming out of the village to the wastewater treatment plant,
Right.
where we wanted to be.
Right.
So it's an excellent opportunity.
Thank you, thank you. Mark Klingensmith and Casey Klingensmith, when we were building the children's playground, discovered that the architects for the playground used pressure treated wood that had arsenic in it.
Mhm.
They pressed for us to use wood that did not have arsenic. We did. And as a result, our playground built in the early 90s is the only one in the area that still survives. So they have a very good point about we should eventually make it clear that we won't include toxic materials in playgrounds.
Just for the record, it's one of my priorities too. I have an environmental studies background.
Hey.
So I'm very concerned about those kinds of things.
Excellent, excellent.
I gotta tell you one thing about the playground. I have never seen it used like I have now. And there are kids there almost every single day.
I think it's because there's so many new kids up there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there are, I mean, that neighborhood has really
I know.
blossomed.
They really need a new playground up there.
Yep, we do, and we've needed it for more than a decade. Okay, moving on to working groups and committees. Town board attendance this Thursday.
I'm there.
Jim, thank you. You know, as soon as I finish retiring from AU, I'll be able to take over some of those for you.
Actually, I think you should run.
For the town board. Do you want to see my husband kill me? I mean, then there'd be this messy.
I never realized that we could. People
Yeah,
live in
we
the
can.
village
Yeah, of
can run
course.
for the
And we
town.
can also run for Allegheny County Legislature.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, report from ACES.
We don't have a report, but we need some direction or something.
As to purpose or?
No, it's just-
No, I think there's plenty of work to be done, but
Yeah,
I think we're still on hold because of all the open staff
Yeah,
positions
it's-
and not knowing who's gonna be on the
right.
committee.
I mean, we've been given a name or so, but I mean, I think what we ultimately need to do is start with a time that everyone, but that's part of it is once, if you don't know who people are, how do you know if it's gonna fit their schedules?
I think we're probably on hiatus for a month or two.
Okay, I just have these vestigial meeting reminders that show up occasionally, and I'm like, well, that's not happening.
So in a way, Alfred Community Coalition, we began discussion last Friday, catching up on COVID, and then we proceeded to what each of the colleges and the village could contribute to what we would expect landlords to put into a lease. We know that there are leases being made in the village that limit party hours and so on and so forth, and those renters are complying. And I had started a process with Chuck a year and a half ago to see if we could make a list of things that should be included. I have that list. The problem is, and I don't know what happened because I saw your text.
Yeah, I was sitting there, I took, and I was waiting, and I never got admitted into the meeting. So
Okay, you never came up on my list to be admitted to the meeting, and so I have to, maybe
Yeah.
you can help me go back and see what I did wrong
Yeah,
with
yeah.
sending out the invitation.
It might be a Zoom issue. I had
Yeah.
that problem with the online class too.
Right.
so.
Oh,
I sat there for 5 or 10 minutes and I never got admitted, so I was like, I'm going to lunch.
You should. Okay, well, the thing is that Greg Salmons and Spencer Peavy didn't make it in either,
So they might have been.
so could have
Other
been the
link
same
as
deal.
well.
So I need to be in touch with everybody. and find
Yeah,
out
yeah, that works.
what that is. But the glory of this is that the discussions continue among Alfred State, Alfred University, and the village of Alfred. And we are finding that they are constructive, and that we're hoping we can create a structure for improvement of communication that will last through administrative changes. Okay, reports. I'm gonna ask, because of the hour, that we all keep these as brief as we possibly can. And let's go. Jim, you're up.
Okay, I'm gonna make it so brief that if you take this home and read it, you're gonna totally understand what's going on. But I just want to cover just three things in the very beginning, just to let you know exactly what's going on, because they're just, these are sort of little reports, is that Tom has completed all of his employee evaluations.
Nice.
And I'm working with him on his evaluation using his job description. And it's mostly a dialogue between the two of us. I gotta say, if he has done, and then I'll write up a document from that conversation. The wastewater treatment plant, we're just about done. The village water project is just beginning. And we're starting, as of today, they were supposed to start, but they will be starting tomorrow on Hillcrest Drive. If you go up to the parking lot on Pine Hill Drive and the playground, all the new pipe is being stored there, and all the valves are all there and ready to go. So we should have the south side of Main Street pretty much underway this fall, with a completion in the spring, at which point we will go into part B of the project, which will be from the wells there in Alfred Station on Shaw Road. There are two of them there, and those water lines going along with pretty much in the same manner where the gas line is. We'll run right along in that area.
Sorry, is the water tower part of that, or is it the last stage?
Yeah, the water tower is from a different grant. It's a community development block grant, which we applied for, was it last year?
Mhm.
Yeah, that we received, so that's funded through another project, but that will also begin in
In 2023.
2023.
So I can give notice to the residents, how long are you expecting the Hillcrest Drive?
It's, at this point, we've been trying to get an answer from Blue Heron as to how they plan to do it. What we basically told them, and this came from Tom's mouth, is that we'd like to be able to keep that half the road open at all times. I think the water line runs on the left-hand side of the road as you're standing from Green Street looking towards campus. It'll be on the left-hand side, and I think that's primarily the water line will be running right along the curb in that area. So hopefully, well, the equipment up there isn't huge, so hopefully they'll be able to get down there and dig it out and put it in.
I'll make a notice about one-way traffic for,
It's a bit of a problem because that's Searcher has become the new entranceway to Alfred State. Because the road is blocked at the light at Pine Street going, I would guess it'd be north along
Around
the outer loop. So it's not simple, but we're gonna have to live with it.
At least it won't be long, maybe a week.
Other than that, the rest of the things are pretty much primary. Most of the things that Tom has been working on is listed below. A lot of the only project that is still in limbo is our sand filter project, which we had anticipated trying to use the funding that we got from the EFC grant at 0% interest to fund the replacement of that. But it's still a primary part of our system, and it is quickly dissolving away, and it needs to really be addressed. Hopefully we can, there's some ideas that they've thrown out as alternatives, maybe a sleeve to put inside those, because right now it's steel and concrete and it's all rusting out. It's those sleeves need to be replaced, but hopefully we can come up with some solutions relatively soon. But the system is working well. All righty, I'm done.
All right, Steve Griffith.
Well, students came back in September. Numbers were pretty modest. We had 224 calls to service in the village and 16 in the town. And it's in messed up on monthly, but total for the village year to date, we've had 1,700 calls, and for the town, we've had 323. So total for the year, we've had 2,035 calls to service. Arrests, we had 1 felony arrest, 13 misdemeanor charges, 12 violation charges, and 1 mental health arrest. So total for the month, we lodged 27 charges. So far for the year, we're at 148 charges that we've lodged. That's not number of people arrested. That's, some of these are multiple charges on people. We had 4 DWIs all in the village. We're at a grand total at the end of the month at 24. So far this month, we're already at 5 DWIs. So we're not even halfway through. 75 parking tickets, up from 29 in August, and that's up from 1 in July. So that's going up. Traffic tickets, 50 in the village, 6 in the town. Total for the year in the village, we're at 314, 95 for the town, and 409 total. In traffic accidents, we had 2 in the village and 1 in the town that we handled, and we're dead even, 14 and 14 accidents for the village and 14 for the town. But there's been a lot more in the town because there's been a few that the state police handled that we did not handle. Also, last month we had I sent myself and a few guys to a class up at Alfred State for to get recertified on a data master. And earlier this year, we were told that our Stop DWI program, which is what the data master is used for, is not going to be funded anymore through the county. And I actually checked with Monica, and we hadn't come to find out, had not got any money for the entire year from Stop DWI, even though we've been billing them. I thought we'd been getting it, but come to find out we hadn't got anything from them. So I actually checked with a bunch of the county legislators to find out that from what they're being told by the Stop DWI coordinator, that the program was going to be done next year. But getting back to the class that we took, the guy that taught the class is the Stop DWI coordinator for Steuben County. And when I mentioned that to him, he said, that's not right. He makes some phone calls to find out our Stop DWI program is still alive and well. That the county's been getting some bad information, that there's a problem with the person running it. And after making a long story short, in a few meetings and going over to one of the county legislator meetings, I think they're going to restructure the Stop DWI program within the county, and our Stop DWI funds are going from, I think, 6,800 a year to over 9,000. So they've increased what we're going to be getting. They've increased wells on that. Also found out because of all this, and actually now talking to some Stop DWI coordinators that are very involved, that there's actually funding out there for us to put towards vehicles, to put towards equipment. All of that training that we went to could have been paid for by Stop DWI. So there's a lot that the Stop DWI program does that our county has not been doing. But I think because of what started up at that class and the meetings we've had at the county, that might be changing. So we might see, I wouldn't call it a revenue stream, but more funding for us to be able to get out and enforce more DWIs. So we had that going on last month, and also Friday, the reason I didn't make the one meeting is I was finishing up training for the DRMO program, which we've already received. We're supposed to be, and they said it's free. We had to pay shipping, which was about $1,000, but 7,000 rounds of ammunition for training for our rifles and another 500 for shotgun, which has always been a big struggle for us to be able to come up with enough training ammo that we can adequately train with those. So that's alleviated a lot of that. And also in this program, I'm looking at a lot of, they call it demilitarized equipment. It's actually just federal equipment coming from a lot of different agencies, everything from storage bins to body bags to heavy equipment to vehicles to you name it. If it's on there, we can be entitled to it, and it's just a matter of us going to pick it up. And it's all free. So I'm looking into that to see what they have. Different things come up at different times. It's just a matter of, being able to do that. But I've heard of different places getting great big excavators that would normally cost $100,000, and it would only cost us to go down and pick it up, which after talking with the DPW, it really wouldn't be that much of a problem. Might be a few $1,000s, but a lot of this equipment, after a year, we own it, and then we could sell it also, depending on what the equipment is. If it's certain military equipment, it has to go back to them, but other stuff we can keep.
Is there anything that might be usable by the fire company?
Depends, like if we get it for the village, because I'm in the program and it's only offered towards law enforcement right now, we have to justify it through law enforcement, then after a year, we can sell it for whatever price we want, but there may be, there isn't anything that I know of like fire trucks. They do have ambulances, but most of those are Humvee ambulances, which would be, and a lot of times you see a lot of places get those for search and rescue. Because they are a little bit more sure-footed than the ambulances you guys have, especially around here in inclement weather. If you had to get up to somebody's house, some of these driveways, that would definitely make it probably over one of your ambulances. So there's all sorts of things that are listed. Actually, the number of pages of things that you can scroll through is, I think I spent the afternoon looking, and I think I went through maybe 300-400 pages, and there's thousands of pages of equipment.
Could I ask, say, an assistant fire chief to scroll with you?
They have to be, you have to go through all this training, and you have to get certified and all that, so only certain people can be what they call screeners.
Okay,
And certain equipment that we get, we have to put out public notices that we will bring this equipment into the village. Ammunition is not one of them, but any type of certain vehicles that, we can actually get track MRAP vehicles that the military has.
yeah.
Anything like that comes in, that has to be, we have to put out public notices. And stuff.
Yeah.
So there's certain things we do, certain things we don't.
That was actually one of my concerns, so, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's, like I said, there's all sorts of things that you get, but a lot of those things, like Humvees, a lot of departments have those and they turn them in or turn them over to other departments and they turn them into their vehicles. They take them and put them in parades and different things like that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions for? I'll go to Lorette Guild, Economic Development Social Media.
Okay, so the village now has its own YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yes, so in the past, you had to subscribe to our newsletter, which meant you had to give your email, which put us a little bit more at risk, and it wasn't as available, and you had to actually sign up through our webpage, and it was just not as available to the public. So the YouTube channel is Village of Alfred, Alfred, NY. And I put the link right on our last minutes, so our last board. So that is accessible to everybody. So I hope people, also, it's also going to alleviate the problem we had with the cloud.
Can you say it one more
Yeah.
time?
Sure. Village of Alfred, Alfred, NY.
And everyone can say hi to YouTube land.
Yeah, so I put the link
Right.
and
This is going to be for posting our
board meetings.
both planning board.
If the planning board wants to, yeah.
That a web address?
Yes, so the web address is www www.alfredny.org. Okay,
Oh, that's-
so,
okay.
you know, the link is right on the
There to
homepage.
the YouTube site.
Yes, so it takes you right to that channel. You could also, Alfred, NY is what is also our Facebook page. So I kind of kept in the same realm of what our social media, where you find our social media now. So I'm excited about that. So the next thing is a week from today, I have arranged with the Alfred Box of Books, and I'm doing a free assistance enrollment of the FCC program, so the Affordable Connectivity Program. Just helping people navigate the site, helping them understand, you know, that they're going to receive a voucher and what non-insurances, what companies are accepting those vouchers. So just going to help through that whole thing. That's October 18th, a week from tonight, from 4:30 to 6 o'clock at the Alfred Box of Books. So, yeah. Just a little bit about that. Participants. So if you're a participant of SNAP, Medicaid, Federal Public Housing Association, Veterans Pension and Survivors Benefits, SSI, WIC, Lifeline, all of those that are participants of those programs are eligible for this program. So it's not just only through your income if you're a participant in one of those programs, including free or reduced school lunch program, or if your school participates in that. College students, if they received a grant Pell for the current award year. And of course, the income is the 200 federal poverty level mark. So, and they'll receive a voucher. So that's just an event that I'm sponsoring. So the next thing is I have been in touch with Alfred Box of Books, and the parking situation is not going away. So I want to bring up that apparently they were promised a sign when the parking was proposed. They feel that their patrons don't know that the parking spaces outside on University Street are reserved for library patrons, and they want it. It's a security, not security, but it's also a safety hazard. Some people are actually parking in the fire and
Right.
ambulance driveway, you know, they're popping in just for a couple of minutes, but that's a safety hazard. So Alfred Box of Books was promised that sign, that parking sign that says, this is, you know, for library patrons.
And a time limit on it.
Yeah, like a 15-minute, I think it was.
Yeah.
there
It
were-
was just, we
15
promised a 15-minute
15-minute
parking sign,
signs,
but
not
I don't
necessarily
remember a
for-
sign.
Yeah,
Okay, well, they would like a sign.
Right.
I don't know,
I
maybe.
don't know if we can make a sign specifically for that establishment. We could definitely do the 15-minute parking
Parking.
signs.
Now, the parking sign is there.
Is there, the
15-minute
15-minute
parking
parking.
sign.
Yeah.
And there's another one in front of Village Hall, but that's pretty, I don't think we can extend beyond that. I mean, I don't think you can actually delegate.
Right, for a specific
Right,
entity, right? Because I think when we came out, we said, yeah, we would set up 15, because we said we would put one in front of the
Right.
pharmacy, if
Right.
people wanted to pop in and out there. And at the same, but we didn't like put like parking only for the,
Right.
pharmacy.
So maybe we ought to have a chat with Melissa, yeah?
yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, so, yeah, Melinda is.
Melinda.
Yeah, the director, and she would like a space reserved for the library, but if it's limited 15 minutes, then,
There should be turnover.
right. Well, then it's also more available. People aren't just gonna park there.
Right.
Okay,
It seems as though there's a large rotation there, but it's not always the library, it's the kiosks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
sure.
And that's reasonable because it's right there.
Right,
Could there
right.
be another one, like one for the kiosk, one for the library, just add another 15-minute spot? Behind the one that's there?
I don't know, we can look at it.
Cost of a sign.
Yeah. Let's maybe
propose that for discussion next board meeting?
Sure.
Okay,
We would
yeah,
have to
parking,
change-
because, that's the next part I had, but we can certainly just.
We would have to
talk
change
about
the parking lot.
Okay,
Oh, because it's number of spots are set, you're right. So
okay, and so we have two issues that we
Yeah.
want to look at. for our
that's a good
next
point.
Okay.
Um,
There
Jim,
is-
if you and I can connect on that.
There is the dirt parking lot that belongs to those that are renting spaces to the businesses. That some artwork is there. So I just
That's
don't,
not, I mean, I don't think that's a parking lot.
it's not a parking lot.
No.
It used to be used for parking spaces.
As soon as the building burned. I don't think-
Yeah.
Right, but it is I don't know, if the owner is interested in perhaps making it
I'm
into.
acquainted with that person. And he has the spaces that are there that are being used are being
Yeah, but
rented
so-
by individuals. Whether they work in the community, I don't know directly who those people are, but they do rent that space from John. It's a
Right.
parking space.
Right,
So it's not public, it's.
right, it's not
Right,
public,
right,
it's,
yeah,
right.
it would be. And then just the other thing is, is it possible to make a handicapped place on that strip? Right there on Main Street,
Isn't there?
yeah, one more handicap place, by the beauty shop or, just right around there.
We have two of them in front of, at the beginning of Church Street. As you come around the corner, there are two of them right there in front of the church center.
And then there's one here and one by the,
Right, there's one right here, yeah,
yeah, and then the one right in front of the pharmacy.
yes. Right,
Okay.
I mean,
We can table and
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about the parking.
I mean, I think
issues.
we would want to look to see, are those 4 spaces being used already,
And used fairly.
right? I mean,
Mhm.
I'm just off the top of my head trying to think the last time I remember seeing a car in any one of those spaces. Other than someone maybe,
usually,
The pharmacy one
pharmacy
is the
one.
one.
Pharmacy
that's-
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
used, and the two Church Street ones are usually.
do you? Okay. Maybe I just drive by without, I'm not paying attention to cars until I'm halfway down.
Yeah.
So you have to watch the road. Jim.
It's true.
All right,
So, thank you, Laura.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. Thank you, Lorette. On your box of books thing, since it also could assist college students, you might want to see if you can announce that on the college, both colleges. So,
Mm,
I did make an Instagram of it,
okay,
but certainly, and then Alfred Box of Books just put up a flyer and it's on Facebook, but
But
yeah.
you
we
could also,
wanna
I mean,
promote
I don't know what it is at AU, but if you email, I think it's announce@alfredstate.edu, they might put it on there. They might tell you, no, we won't run it, but at least you could try. It's just
Okay,
announce@alfredstate.edu.
it would be a similar thing for Alfred University, but I would have to find out what that is. Okay, so Meredith, you're up.
Yeah, so we just formalized our new Alfred Parks Committee. So thank you to the board. And we've also been working through the logistics of selling the Pine Hill Playground equipment. So thanks to Jim for talking to the
Yeah,
attorney to
absolutely.
figure out what we needed to do to kind of release ourselves from liability if we sell that equipment. And so now we'll be able to list it and have some sort of kind of silent auction, closed bidding auction.
Okay.
And that's my report,
Love
focused on
it.
Pine Hill Playground.
Right, I'll tell you, there's a need.
Yeah.
in that hill.
So I am working on personnel handbooks, and Jim, I'm gonna rely on you to give me anything that DPW has.
Yeah,
I've also garnered something from NICOM. Most of it doesn't apply because so many of our employees are part-time, but that can be worked out. I'm still working on, can we get every host city for municipality for a SUNY system to make a kind of lobby group.
Mm.
I've gotten acceptance only from two, and they happen to be in the same community, which is us.
Mhm.
Fire name, we have, because of Monica's Herculean efforts, and I've decided that the her is very appropriate for both she and Carolyn. Monica finally got our first ARPA grant registered with the federal government, and we have received the second. We will need to be engaging in conversations about how we use that second. Yeah, it's a French word. I'll look it up. Okay, fire and ambulance, and this affects the village also. The generator, to the emergency generator shared between these two properties, which, by the way, were both at one time fire hall, which is why the shared generator. That is ordered, and the pad has been located, and I'm assured that it won't interfere with anything in terms of access to the sort of west side of the village hall and the fire company. And we in ambulance have had a very moderate number of calls considering the number of students who've returned to the community. We were able to note and have noted that the majority of the students that we pick up for drug or alcohol overdose, the alcohol overdose, we almost never see them again. Not that they die, but that they seem to learn their lesson. And so that's a very gratifying kind of thing with the sort of open call when needed policy, which we don't want people to hide people who are drunk and in danger. Code enforcement, we passed the motion so that Chuck could get paid for his work in connection with the brick. And there's nothing more exciting going on there, except that, again, I'm hoping that Chuck will work with us to help landlords, especially since many of them new to us are absentee, to work on the development of these leases. And that's it for me.
All right, I'm gonna steal some of Jim's thunder that he didn't mention, but while we were having a discussion, he got a message from our contact at Clark Patterson, and he assures us that the full amount of the funding that we just approved in the change order is covered under our grant funding. Merely, we only were doing this as a change order because we hadn't chosen one of the two options. I'm not 100% certain until I do all the maths, but he's our expert, so I'm gonna. So that's a follow-up from an earlier thing.
Thank
You might remember that
Thank
from this
you.
meeting.
I was pretty sure it was,
Yeah.
but
I was
it's nice to
concerned.
hear from the horse's mouth.
Yes.
So just, I'm gonna add a comment too. I had trouble with it being called a change order
Yeah,
when we hadn't actually approved it to be.
Well, we approved the main bid
Right,
and
right.
option 3, but we
Right.
didn't choose an option 1 or 2 if we wanted to. So to add another option on now becomes a change order.
I
That's
see,
my
I
understanding.
understand.
I'm making that up. It doesn't-
it
Makes sense.
sounds very good.
Yeah, you just talk with confidence.
And say it through that.
So, let's see, Becky and I, we met last week, must have been last week, with the presidents of both institutions. And I think each of them brought a vice president as well, about projects to work toward together. They seemed, especially the new president, whose inauguration's coming up next week, was very excited about collaboration with community, which Gannon University, where he came from, had done with Erie, Pennsylvania. So out of that, both institutions are kind of putting their heads together to try to come up with corollary communities or and what they may have done or how they may have done it to bring forward to say, hey, can we get community buy-in to do some of these things? What they kind of tossed around was the idea of maybe leveraging their infrastructure to host more events that bring people in, which would then, of course, support all the other businesses and activities and stuff that go on in the community. So I think some of that might be coming around. Other things we talked about, we pitched around, and I learned that Alfred University adopted similar policy in May already, which is allowing for service on like this or the town boards and like that to count as, university service toward tenure and whatnot, continuing appointment, that kind of thing. So maybe Alfred State could look to do something similar. So any opportunities that I can to find where we can collaborate to raise everyone's fortunes up. They're looking into proposing different ideas. So that's on its way. So I think that was a beneficial start right there. Last Thursday, we met with the village planning board. They had one application. No, it was really two applications because it got split for one property on West University, the corner of West University and Reynolds. They're essentially wanted to add in a fence, a kind of privacy fence, and a garage of some sort. They called it a carport, but I think it's more of a wooden structure of some sort, right?
There's no sides, just poles.
Just poles. Okay, that's all. There's no
So
sides.
it's a carport.
So it's a carport like that, but it's not one of those like plasticky things or whatever. So exactly. Did I miss anything? Oh, and then they spent a considerable amount of time going through the parking section of the code. There was vigorous discussion, and they're looking to, Pat had come up with some recommendations of how to consolidate that. And I believe they're going to each month, as they have time, go through a different section and then amalgamate all those recommended changes, which will come to us. And then we can bring them forward after we've reviewed them to have a public hearing and adopt any of the changes that we so see fit.
That also has to go through the county.
And it has to go to the county planning board. That's exciting. Did I miss anything? No, it was good. It was good.
I just want to add in a quick comment about the changes for the faculty staff handbook. Faculty who are up for promotion and tenure can count the service. There was a time where the A.E. Crandall Fire Company had more terminal degree participants than anywhere else in the world, and I think actually we still stand that way. But it's one of those only an Alfred things,
Yeah.
and it's so nice to have that standard return after about a 30-year absence from our P&T procedures.
And it was
Yeah.
not an easy sell. either.
No,
It was pretty
I-
controversial,
I'm
actually.
absolutely shocked. Also, in line with that, Pete's comment about the meeting that we had last week, I am confident that we will develop a model that will keep the three entities cooperating despite administrative changes. And I also know that we are inaugurating a new president at A State and that we have a continuing president at Alfred University. So the time is really right
Mhm.
for doing this.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I trying to think if what else I gave as my report on Thursday that would be appropriate here, but no, I think that's gonna just call it a day because it's late. So.
All right. Okay, public comment period, 10 minutes.
Very quick, we have been, Alfred Solar have been using the space upstairs on the first Wednesday of the month for a meeting. With what Randy is doing, should we find a different location?
For the one for the month of November, yes.
Okay, I shall relay that to Lee.
Yeah.
Good question.
Lee was in touch with me about being able to use it for the October meeting, and it was no problem because they weren't planning to be in here until some 8 days later.
Okay.
So, but the November one, absolutely.
I'll pass it along.
Thank you.
Good.
Any other?
Mark, do you have any comments you want to make on Zoom, Mark? No,
Yes, hello.
okay. You have been very patiently waiting.
I would actually just, this isn't directly related to Alfred Village business, but recently I've been doing a little research and wanted to let the community know that NYSEG is applying for, with the Public Service Commission for a rate increase. It's a 31% rate increase.
Nice.
And I am finding that almost no one knows about it. There is a public comment period that is open. Obviously, the whole village as well as the town is served by NICEAG. There is a live session on the 18th, and there is a web link that I could send to someone if they're interested, that provides all of the opportunities to comment on whether you think that NICEAG getting a 30% rate increase is appropriate or not. Thank you.
Loretta, would you want to put that?
Yeah, I
in
was
the
just gonna
newsletter?
say the same thing. Lorette would be great if we posted it on our website.
Or at least in the
But
newsletter.
a company can make a proposal and not be accepted. Insurance companies do that all the time.
Oh,
So
absolutely. It's
this
before
is
the
just a
Public Service
proposal,
Commission.
right? The state hasn't approved it.
It's before the Public Services Commission, and so there are two administrative law judges who are have now accepted the proposal from NICEAG, and it is under consideration, and it is in a public comment period at this point.
So we should comment.
So we definitely.
Who do we
Build a
want
warrant.
him to email the information to?
Would it be best to use? You can put it straight
Yeah,
on
do you
the,
want to just put your email in the
Yeah,
chat?
I can
Yeah.
do that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
yeah.
All right, thanks, Mark.
All right, anybody else?
Scott, you want to put all that up?
Yes?
I'm on. Okay, I just want to add on to what Becky said about those administrators that we have. And we have a new director of communications at AU.
Okay.
So involving him or her.
Him.
Would be good.
His name is also Mark Danes.
Yeah.
Every position at AU seems like it's new.
And I want to say that I think it was last month that the planning board did discuss a landlord lease, and Jim has followed up with what has been available in the past. But more to let landlords know what they have to do as far as the village is concerned. When I brought it up at the planning board, Jason Rod happened to be there and was very clear on his statements that the village already is quite restrictive in what they require from landlords. And that if we made it more difficult, we might have fewer people interested in being landlords here. He also mentioned that there is only so much that landlords can do. And so some of the proposals as to what would go into a landlord lease, he said, it just won't fly. You just have a limited amount of ability of what you can do as a landlord, what you can specify. So just putting that out there, and I will reiterate what I said before to the board, that it also might be very good to have positive feedback to landlords instead of negative. Saying you've got to do this or you can't do that. Having some mechanism of support and reward for the landlords that do things well.
I have to comment on that. I've noticed, and I'm sure you all have, that a lot of the traditional dumpy apartments that we've grown accustomed to have spruced up in the last year, primarily on South Main Street. The peach colored house is now beautifully painted and repaired. A couple of houses up here on West University Street. It seems as though there's a transition taking place in the village and that landlords are taking it much more seriously. I noticed on 20 Terrace Street, and they're painting that house and doing a lot of work there. And they have been very cooperative with their neighbor as far as visitation. So I think there's, as far as landlords are concerned in the village and the handbook that we already had a handbook written, I asked Chuck if he would just go through it and update it for us so that it could be a tool, a resource tool for the landlords if they want to know the process that's within the village as far as government is concerned. And it's a great document. It has primarily all the permits that have to be used by landlords. And I think what we'll do is give it to the planning board, allow them to fine tune it, and then give it to Chuck as a resource for his apartments and property owners. Hopefully that'll work out.
So I'm asking if maybe we can recognize these landlords that you brought up. Could we have a site?
I usually send, I
with
have-
pictures and
Yeah.
congratulations.
Well, I got a card that I've made for every time they renovate a house in the village, like, for example, before Tim did work on his, and it was owned by an awesome family from Cornell. They spend a great deal of money keeping that building in good condition, and I send them historic pictures of their house and with a word from us of appreciation. And then I couldn't believe how much that meant to them to receive that at least they were recognized
That's
and
awesome.
appreciated.
Yeah.
So that, and I just did that for the new person that bought Reynolds, the houses on Reynolds Street and West University Street. He did a lot of work on both those places this past summer. And that house up there, I don't know who the landlord is. That's the problem that we're having right now, is that we have more absentee landlords than we've ever had before.
Precisely, which is one of the reasons that I think with this transition taking place, we really need to become as proactive as we can. And at the same time, through this committee that Pete and I are on, the Community Coalition, I'm working to get similar support from student housing on both campuses, so that we have both campuses looking out for what students should be doing and so on and so forth, and at the same time supporting both that and the landlords to make it a much more sane situation.
I gotta applaud Pat. She has really taken the planning board to the next level. I mean, you guys have done probably more work in the last 6 months than we've done in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And not criticizing anyone else before her, but the fact that she has taken the problems and taken the initiative to be able to get the ball rolling and getting things done. And I truly appreciate it.
If you and I could have a meeting perhaps with Chuck about landlords that we would want to recognize, I think that could be pretty.
It'd be great, something from you.
Yeah.
Give them the key of the village.
Be a very tiny key. They'd only get 8% of it.
From the office of the mayor and the office of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. Okay, any other, we're out beyond our 10. We're now going to move into our finance, basically, as Craig Clark used to say, okay, it's time to pay some bills. So, people who don't have to be here can feel free to leave, or they can sit here and listen to me read numbers. We have a request for credit on a water bill. And account E475-0 has requested a credit on the water bill as the high water usage was from a running toilet in an area that was not in the major traffic pattern and was discovered when the floor and carpet were found extremely wet. This water did not go through the sewer system. This bill is 38,000 gallons more than the average usage. We request board action to forgive $370.12 on the non-water portion of the excess 38,000 gallons used, $236.36 for the sewer rent, $64.22 for the sewer bonds, and 6954 for fire protection on account E4750.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, for those of you who are new, our water bills are divided into two parts. Water that we run through our meter and we use. But if it is water that does not go through the sewer, in other words, toilets weren't flushed or sinks weren't run to send this amount of water through the sewer, then we do, after discussion and investigation, forgive that sewer portion of the bill. I would have to say that if we found that there was a sort of continuous stream from a single account, get the pun, that we might be reluctant to do so. Thank you, Monica. My husband would say that, encourage her. But that we do discover that we can forgive some of this because it hasn't used the facility.
And it's been corrected, the problem's been corrected.
And the problem
I
has
was
been,
Alright.
yeah,
trying to find that out.
yeah, who wants to keep paying that water bill? All right, so I would ask for a motion and then we can have.
It already
It's
got
on the
We've got them
floor.
I'm
Just
so
ready to
sorry.
vote.
Okay, so any discussion? Okay, all in favor of?
Aye.
Thank you. I didn't even say forgiving the sewer portion of the water bill. All right, and I will read that as unanimous. All right, so a second request for credit on the water bill. Account E805-1 has requested a credit on the water bill as the high water usage was from an outside hose running for quite some time without their knowledge. This water did not go through the sewer system. The bill, oh my God. The bill is 94,000 gallons more than the average usage. Board action to forgive $915.56 on the non-water portion of the excess 94,000 gallons used, $548.68 for the sewer rent, $158.86 for the sewer bonds, and $172.02 for the fire protection on account E805-1.
Motion.
I'll make a motion. Oh, okay, I'll second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Is that the highest one we've ever had, 94,000?
Do we have a second?
I could just, yeah.
I'll second.
Yeah, I said, I can't imagine. I could do that.
Yeah.
It could be my.
Yes, you want to try to beat that record? Is that what you're aiming for?
I refuse.
And of course,
94,000 gallons.
that's a lot of water.
Well, you're counting the colleges, because that doesn't count.
Yeah, but there's been, I remember when it was $1,500 in girls that went home for Christmas break.
Oh,
wow.
The whole time they were gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I remember a family up on Hillcrest who were in the $750 range for a water heater that didn't do what it was supposed to
We
do.
got a number.
Okay, we got that.
And of course, the ecological concerns remain. All right, are you ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I read that as no opposition and no abstentions. Fiscal summary, board action to acknowledge receipt of the July, August, and September fiscal summaries and financial statements. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second.
That was Peter's second.
Peter, second, you know that.
Monica,
Sorry.
no, hey, that stuff happens, right? All right. Discussion.
No.
Ready to vote?
Yep.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that too is unanimous. All right, bills abstract 2023-3. Board action to pay bills in the total amount of $142,154.84 as detailed below and on the abstract list distributed to the board. General fund, $71,678.95. Water fund, $25,928.78. Sewer fund, $29,807.66. I think that's the end of it, right?
No, the project.
There's more on the other side.
14,739.
Okay, and number 4, yes, capital projects, $14,739 $2,046.45. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second, thank you.
Who's seconded?
Lorette.
Lorette,
All right, discussion. We gotta pay these bills, folks.
okay.
Discussion?
Aye.
All in favor, please say aye. And I read that as unanimous, thank you. Okay, just two more, guys. Bills abstract 2023-4, board action to pay bills in the total amount of $351,564.17 as detailed below and on the abstract list distributed to the board. General fund, $96,502.02. Water fund, $10,312.95. Sewer fund, $20,411.00. And capital projects, $224,338.20.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Discussion,
Aye. Yeah.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
You could say it faster, you could say it like that. And I read that as unanimous, thank you. Now, board action to pay bills in the total amount of $165,149.75 as detailed below and on the abstract list distributed to the board. General fund, $54,114.05. Water fund, $33,446.55. Sewer fund, $57,588.16. And capital projects, $20,000.99. I just said it. Do I hear a motion?
I move.
Second, thank you, Lorette. And discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, adjournment.
I was adjourned. I have a question. I would entertain at some point an executive session of the board, not tonight, but at some point where we can get together as a personnel discussion. And I don't know if it's a later point, but it's definitely something that needs to be addressed as far as personnel.
So if you can tell me at some point what's going on.
Yeah, I certainly can.
We can go to discussing a personal matter.
And I think the whole board needs to be in attendance. It's not really just we should all be involved in the decision.
Okay.
So I know that we did it when we worked